My name is Kamal Kansou. I'm working at the unit BIA of INRAE-Nantes. Today I would like to talk to you about approaches and strategies for transferring knowledge with food models. It's a topic addressed in the framework of FoodMC cost action. More especially, we work on this topic in the working group 4, which is about dissemination and knowledge transfer. This work is a collaborative work coordinated by Bert Bredeweg from the University of Amsterdam and Wim Laurier from the Université Saint-Louis, Brussels, and myself. So in terms of content, I will first present the context and the problem definition related to knowledge transfer in food modeling. More precisely, how to transfer a scientific software. I will review briefly the aims and the scope of the work we've done. And in doing so, I will review the different two types of science models, the different channel to move towards reusable food scientific software in a food area. How also to get more usable software through collaboration. We think that's an important also ways to improve the usability of food research software. And finally, I will talk a little bit about education and training. So first of all, you may have noticed that there is an exponential use of software and mathematical models in general in our daily research work. This can be illustrated by the publication of review papers in food engineering, food technology, or food science journal. And yet it is quite difficult so far to get an access to the implementation of the mathematical models that are published in those journals. So I think the problem is not about technology. Web technologies are developing fastly. They offer great opportunities for knowledge transfer. So technology is not an issue anymore. It is quite easy now to share data or documents or most of the product of the research. So the problem definition is how to share efficiently scientific software, thereby supporting a knowledge transfer in the food area. To answer to this question, we gave some thinking about the traditional channels of diffusion, and we think they have limitation. We also have noticed that food scientists like the minimum knowledge about sharing software and make them reusable using the web technology. They also like expertise about building software usable by external end user, but that's also normal because this is not their primary job. And finally, we think that there is a lack of modeling framework and a lack of application dedicated to food in food engineering curricula in general. Is projecting a growth path for the food modeling community for promoting knowledge transfer from academia to industry and vice versa. We want to do that by giving an overview of trend evolution and issue regarding this issue, and by discussing what food modeling can learn from other domains. The scope of this work is to review strategies that can benefit the food modeling community, the channels, and give examples of diffusion and reusability of scientific software from other domain or from the food modeling domain. Want to also to highlight the different strategy for building more usable software, and this goes through more collaboration with people from outside the food research field most of the time. And education and training, we think that it could be very nice to have to promote the development of digital pedagogical materials more. So a food science model capture knowledge that is quite important in the food area. We can identify two types of model: physics-based modeling. That's the models that start with implementation of selected universal physical laws, and phenomenological models that start with experimental data and behavioral laws. The former is quite important to understand mechanism of the physical mechanism of a phenomenon. It also physics-based model has also a good predictive capacity. Phenomenological models main objective is to represent well specific phenomena or specific process, um, so that to get something functional, for example, to help decision in a certain case. Both are potential knowledge transfer vectors. The current channels for transferring knowledge through models are of two types, to our opinion. First, the channels that are handled by scientists, publication, or via the supply of simulation results in the case of a collaborative work with industrial, for example, and here the scientists are the contractors, or channels that are handled by software engineering companies. In this case, the authors of the model hands over to a company or a specific service from his university the code of his mathematical model, and then this company is in charge of doing the development and in charge of business and diffusion. An important factor in transferring knowledge through models is the nature of the model. When it is a physics-based model, there is a need to, most of the time, to goes through the use of computer-aided engineering tools such as COMS or ANSYS. Most of the physics-based models now are implemented using those tools. And of course it had a great importance for the transfer. In case of phenomenological models, it's different. Most of the time these models are simpler, and they are directly programmed in a language like Python or R, for example. So there is a direct handing over from the scientist to the software engineering company, and then this company will be in charge of commercialization. These two channels have limitations. In case of computer-aided engineering solution, well, first there's a need for more development to accompany the development of applications in the food area, and also the licensing and the price of this computer-aided engineering solution is quite high, so it's not a solution for everyone, in particular SMEs. About the direct handing over from science to a software company, then we can say that it is most of the time a long process, and it concerns only the few scientific models that are susceptible to interest customers. And this is not, of course, the majority of the scientific models in the food area. So there is a need to promote more the reusability of food scientific software through different channels, and these channels should use the web technologies. Reusability is becoming a major concern for funding agencies. They think that the implementation part of mathematical model is most of the time in published work. It is true that in many publications the implementation section is quite poor or incomplete. This leads to a duplication of research, because researchers tend to reinvent the wheel and to program the same software again and again. Still, funding agencies are convinced that software is a potential vector for knowledge transfer. So to exploit the web technology, there is a need for the authors of the model to provide minimum information to describe his or her scientific software. This includes, for example, a README file, a RUNME file, a case study data. Also, there is a need for a suitable infrastructure with a web portal to store, archive, and diffuse. And maybe an important point is also an infrastructure that is able to provide a digital identifier, such as software heritage, for example, is an example of such infrastructure. In the food modeling area, there is an interesting initiative from the food safety modeling community with the food safety modeling repository. It's a publicly available repository of predictive microbial models. Models are stored using a standardized format, and metadata are also provided. So this is quite active initiative, and this is supported by the community. Another way to get more usable software is to collaborate as a food scientist with a domain expert or end user to design decision support software, for example. So this kind of software combines scientific aspects, know-how, decision criteria, and the objective of this software is to be used by third-party professionals most of the time. The guidelines to build this kind of decision support system are formulated in the knowledge engineering field. For example, with a spiral development, it is possible to really have multiple feedback with the domain expert, even if those experts doesn't have programming skills. So another point, which is also originating from the knowledge engineering, is the participative modeling, such as argumentation modeling. So in this case, the objective is to have the different views of the same reality combined in a single and a unique models. It's quite interesting, and it's quite used in the environmental science, for example. In this domain, it is quite important to have all the stakeholders participating in the building of unique models, and they all share their own interest, views, arguments on the ecosystem, and so that they can really understand all the dimensions of the problem. Another point which is quite interesting also from the knowledge engineering is the development of control vocabulary, such as ontologies, and so this is just an organization of concept of a knowledge corpus. Each concept is well defined, and this is quite useful for software application. So developing ontologies for food scientists is quite important. It is a way to share knowledge from the food science area, and to have this knowledge used in different applications. Finally, there is the crowdsourced food data initiative, such as Open Food Facts. Open Food Facts has many contributors and consumers of a food database, and this is quite useful for the public society. And we probably food scientists could well be involved in this kind of initiative, and that could be also very interesting. Regarding education and training, we think that the need for more pedagogical resources, for example, more case studies about food application for the training or education in numerical modeling in food engineering. Well, an example of such training is the International School on Modeling and Simulation in Food and Bioprocesses. It's a 1-week short-term intensive teaching supported by ISEKI, Food Association, and Cost Action FoodMC. Other digital pedagogical resources can be found in the food area. First of all, there is this well-known virtual set of virtual experiments from Singh and Erdogdu. Each virtual experiment, there are more than 20, I think. Each experiment combines contextual information, theory, background knowledge, and simulator that generates the simulated data that then can be interpreted. There is also more recently the Mestral online course from the program Agranium in France. In this case, each module contains about 15 modules. Each modules provide a description of an actual research work, and this research work includes a simulator that also provides simulation data. You have also in each module contextual information, theory, background knowledge, and also a couple of tests that the student can use to assess his or her knowledge. The references are given in this slide. Conclusion, we have reviewed in this workbook 4 different trends and issues about sharing software and related knowledge. We have reviewed the different channels for knowledge transfer of software, those currently used in food modeling and those used in other domains. And our approach consisted in determining if the strategy and the approach from other domains could be applied to the food modeling area. So thank you for your attention. I would like to give credits to FoodMC members and working group for members that have participated to this collaborative work during the cost action. I would like also to acknowledge the support of the cost action FoodMC and of Alberto Tonda, leader of FoodMC. And would like also to give him my thanks for organizing this session at FoodSim. And now I'm ready to answer to your questions.